All right, time for a wanker to show you how to be the biggest dick. Let's roll. Hello and welcome to another episode of the HEMA Show. Like always, I'm your host Stuart and this is edited by my mate Andy. Say hi Andy. I say mate. Mate in the strictest possible term. He's chained up in the cellar. He can do nothing about it. Right, so today I want to give you guys some pearls of advice on how to be the best you possible. And this is really important. You're going to go to a HEMA club. You may be known, you may not be known, you may be a HEMA personality, you may not. But make sure that you always wave your credentials about in the place that you need to be. It's really important to establish yourself as the alpha male. You need to be the dominant person and really show that you have got the biggest balls in the room. So here's a real comprehensive guide to make sure that your balls are the biggest and the swingiest. So, number one, be able to read your handwriting.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Number two, make sure that you know the most in the room, okay? It's really important that you have got the deepest knowledge.
I know more than you.
All right.
Okay? You absolutely have to know more than guys that have just joined. You need to know more than your coach, absolutely. Remember, your coach has only been doing this for their whole lives, okay? You've been doing this for 6 months, so your take is fresher, it's newer. Your value is much higher because it's new. So what you know is infinitely more important than your coach, and definitely more important than the scrubs that have only just joined and are doing it for fun. You're better than them, don't worry about that. You're really important, you're really special. So make sure that your knowledge is out there to be seen as well. Make sure you're approaching people who don't ask for your help and throw your advice at them.
Take my advice, rookie. You ever go to a play place? Make sure it has balls.
I'm not talking about even watching. You don't need to do that. You don't need to watch their fights. Just fucking assault them with words, yeah? Throw lots of terms at them. Impress them that you know the terminology as well. Impress them that you know the historical terms rather than just plain, clear, concise English terms. As we all know, people that just use clear, descriptive terms don't actually know what they're talking about. They're just trying to hide their ignorance. So you really need to put them on the spot and kind of call them out for not knowing the historical terms. Honestly, if we start letting that shit slide, then people are just going to be using whatever terms they want for anything, aren't they? So we really got to be, you know, grammar Nazis on this one. And now I've mentioned the Nazis, we're never going to get monetized on this. So fantastic, here we go. Yes, really, really, really make sure that you're a sword snob as well. Like really fly your flag, the sword that you use. And remember, you're great. So your choice in sword is amazing.
You have the ring, and I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Everyone else who doesn't agree with you is clearly a subpar fighter, or they're just a bit of a thug and doing it wrong.
Tell me how the grass tastes, little man!
Your weapon is clearly the right choice because you've made it. You're not stupid, are you? So really evangelize, yeah? The more people that do your weapon, the more people you can be better than. So really evangelize and get people drinking your particular Kool-Aid because again, you're right, you're great. So make sure that you really talk up your weapon. And don't forget, whatever the hell you do, don't forget to really belittle people for their choices, for their choice of weapon if it's not the same as yours. And if it's drastically different, you can even be a little bit rude if you want to, it's fine. They're not as evolved as you are, so they might not understand it. But yeah, really just, ironically, twist that knife in. And if they are fighting knives, then they're beyond hope. Just get rid of them. And the next thing, really, really, really shit on sport fencing. Absolutely. Those guys are just useless, flicky, twiddly, prancy, bouncy little knobheads. They're of no use to HEMA. They should stay out of HEMA, stay away in their own little pool.
Life could be a dream. Life could be a dream. Do, 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 shaboom.
Because quite frankly, we don't want them. And also, make sure that you just ostracize reenactors. What they are doing is they're not taking it like a real sport. They are not doing it properly. They're just prancing about, farting about with historically accurate stuff and being just unproductive and just living out a past life vicariously through this sport that we call HEMA. So really, at the same time, it's quite a tricky one. Take the piss out of the fencers for not doing it properly, like the history book says, but also shun the reenactors because they are not taking it seriously like a productive sport.
Shun the non-believer.
Fine line to tread, but just make sure you're Johnny Cashing it and walk in that line because it's really important to be as righteous as you possibly can. The next thing you need to do is just make sure you know the most. Make sure that you constantly tell people the books that you've read, constantly remind people that you've read them and understood them. A lot of people can read, anyone can read, most people can read, but do they understand it? Have they the knowledge or the cognitive ability to recall that information when it's not asked for? And just to just throw it at them. A little bit like point one. Remember, because you might have a slightly better memory than someone else, you are a better fighter.
Oh, forgive me. I didn't mean to cross a level 42 sword master.
I'll let you go this time, but watch out. This sword of Ganymede now hangs perilously close to your skull.
So really remember that. And people that struggle with maybe short-term memory, really reminds them that you've got a great memory. It's really, really important. And honestly, just in general, make sure you've got the biggest dick in the room. Walk in, alpha, proud, chest puffed, head high. Be the biggest wanker you can possibly be. Make sure that you are the dominant attitude, the dominant person. Make sure that you are really just, everyone knows that you are King Dick.
I am the king.
It's really important, and doubly so if you're not the coach. You absolutely have to undermine the coach at every possible turn. Done. Excellent. Now, obviously, this is a facetious video. I know that subtlety and the internet are not common bedfellows, but I'm kind of taking the piss on the most part. And the reason is these are all common foibles that we all have. And regardless of how inclusive we all are, regardless of how much we help each other out, we all have these little biases, unconscious biases. Oh no, I certainly do. But as fighters, we all have our unconscious biases. We all have these areas that we like to sit. We all have these opinions that we stay in. We all, even if we try not to acknowledge it, we definitely have opinions on wider things. The common one is obviously fencing in HEMA. Is sport fencing productive for HEMA? Some people really don't like it. Some people just don't understand it at all. So what I'm talking about is just take a step back as a fighter yourself and be like, actually, yeah, quite funny, Stu's just unloaded on people. But think, well, actually, yeah, no, I kind of do that. Yeah, sometimes I can be a bit of a dick. So it's just the ability to step back and be self-aware of your potential shortcomings and being able to work on them. I'm not saying that you have to work on them. I'm not saying if you have these opinions that you absolutely cannot voice them whatsoever. I'm like, fine, you do you, man. I don't care. I certainly don't care what my opinions are, let alone yours. But just step back and, you know, think, actually, is what I'm about to say really going to be productive? Is it going to add anything? Is it going to piss anyone off? Because it's so easy in HEMA, I mean, in all sports, really, in all walks of life, definitely sports, but turbo in HEMA, that your opinions or what you're about to say could really affect someone, especially if you're a more experienced fencer, which is this is kind of aimed at, when you know enough to have a few opinions. And opinions are fine, by the way. Just go on record. If you've got opinions, great, good on you, fair play. It means you believe in something. good for you. But how they're applied can be really detrimental, especially the experienced fighter to new fighter dynamic. Remember, if you're an experienced fighter and you've got new people in the club, people on beginners courses, people recently come off of beginners courses, people on trial days, you are some of the most important people in the room. Now, I don't mean that facetiously, actually, because you're a model of what they want to be. They're looking at you to what they want to aspire to be. They're coming in this new hobby. We've all been new people. I said this time and time and time again. We've all been new people and gone, oh, this is really fucking uncomfortable. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to look stupid, apart from the fact that we're all wearing stupid kit, but never mind. So they will look up to you. They'll look up to you and be like, this guy's got his shit together. I kind of want to emulate him. How did he get to this point? What did he do to train to this point? Whatever, you know. That's kind of what their thought processes are. So never underestimate what you say and how it can affect the people that are below you, you know what I mean, that are newer than you, because they will emulate you. So really be careful with some of your opinions. No, you know, it's fine. You can have your opinions. And I'm going to keep saying that you can have your opinions, because I don't want it to be sanitized, of course, you know, and the more varying opinions we have, the better the sport is, the more dynamic it becomes. But it's just how we apply them. I know sometimes people in the HEMAverse can be a little blunt or a little heavy-handed on their opinions and their applications. And likewise, if someone does a different sword to you, you know, don't necessarily shout it down and be like, oh no, long swords for thugs, or rapier's the best. Or, you know, oh, if it's not saber, I don't give a shit. It's never helpful, because people might be coming to you because you're a better fighter. You may have incredibly tight timing. Your parries might be incredible. There may be something of value that you have as a fighter. Someone's coming to you and be like, would you mind having a longsword fight with me? Because they might be thinking, right, I'm going to watch his timing, I'm going to watch his distance and see if I can learn something from it. If you turn around and be like, no, you fight longsword, you idiot, I don't touch longsword, then they're just going to be like, oh, okay, cool, cheers, wanker. So you can really be a detriment to people's kind of progress, their productivity, if you don't temper your opinions sometimes. And we see this all the time. I think HEMA is a great sport for so many reasons. And for the reason I'm about to make, it's actually a very good sport, that a lot of introverted people take part in this sport. A lot of your typical, well, for lack of a better term, nerds. HEMA is so inclusive. You don't need to be your typical jock, sports guy or girl, or you know, whatever, to do HEMA. It's pretty accepting of all people. So, which is great. More the merrier. You know, the more we can get on this party bus, the better it is. But equally, if it's open to people with, you know, not as experienced social experiences or cues or abilities, sometimes that will come across in the way that we talk to each other. And we really need to not monitor the way we talk to each other. Christ, no. That sounds slightly Orwellian. But we just maybe need to have a little bit more empathy when we're talking to each other, when we have different opinions or different ideas or different approaches. And this is kind of what today's really about. Especially, like I said, a new fighter dynamic. What you say can really, really impact upon them. And then from the other side, from my point of view, coaches. Think of your coaches. Yeah, coaches in this country are coaches, I guess, in the technical term. My opinions on coaches are long and documented. There are some fantastic coaches are there, but there is a bit of dross that needs cutting away. Again, like always, I won't mention names, because despite how much of a dick I am, I don't want to start anything. So, if you're a coach and you've got someone coming in, waving it around or saying, oh no, what you mean is this, or what you mean is that, I was like, yeah, but I'm using simple knowledge or simple terms to make it applicable for everyone. I know you know stuff, dude, but this guy doesn't know the same stuff that you do, and I'm trying to make the same skill, the same lesson, applicable to all of you. So I'm using clean, concise language so you can all do it, and then later, if you still need some more in-depth knowledge, I can come to you and we can deep dive into it. So coaches, if they're doing their jobs right, don't do anything arbitrarily. If a coach is using a term that's either not overly correct or not particularly accurate, fucking motorbikes every week, honestly. Jesus Christ. If they're using terms that are not correct or a little vague, they're doing it for a reason, because they're kind of trying to make it more applicable for as many people as possible. We've got an ambulance coming as well. It's like the fucking purge outside. Jesus Christ, what is going on? Honestly. Coaches don't do anything arbitrarily. I've been accused of doing lessons wrong, like just straight up, your lesson was incorrect. And I said to this was in fencing. So I said to the parent of the child, so I was doing a one-to-one lesson with the child, not that it's relevant. And afterwards, the parent was like, well, I'm not paying for this lesson because you taught them the wrong thing. And I was like, excuse me? He said, no, well, you were teaching this. This is basically what I was teaching them was a beat clear, this is in foil, beat clear the line, re-lunge in. And I was teaching them to get the beat done first, then bring the point in line, then do the footwork. And the parents thought that they knew better. A postman, for the record, thought that they knew better than a coach. And he said he was refusing to pay for the lesson because of, fencers out there will understand this, but HEMAists, reasons. But basically the parent was saying that the priority would have finished because it was beat action. By the time the tip come in, the aggressive action would have stopped, priority would have finished, and then you would have been priority-less coming in for the lunge. And he said that I taught the lesson wrong. And I was like, right, dickhead, I haven't taught it wrong. Your child is 8 and they're not going to be able to understand that a progressive lunge, beat, hover all in one is actually going to work. I would have fried their brain and I would have got no knowledge across, and you having to be right has just undermined me in front of your kid. It's made them very uncomfortable, and as a result the kid kind of quit fencing about 2 or 3 weeks after that. And this is what can happen. Coaches good coaches very rarely do anything arbitrarily. So if you think you've spotted a mistake in your coach's lesson, or a little hole or a black spot, don't be like, no, you've done that wrong. This is what, X, Y, Z. That's what you should be doing. It's like, no, dude, fucking idiot, in front of everyone. For a start, cheers. But your coach has probably figured out a lesson route. They are maybe building up the basics for everyone to do it, and then stringing it together and elaborating on a theme. And this hasn't happened to me at HEMA yet, luckily. You lot seem to be a lot nicer than fencers. Those guys suck. But this is the sort of thing where I'm talking about don't have the biggest dick in the room, because you don't know you shouldn't know what's happening in your coach's head, in their lesson plans. You don't know what you say is going to affect other people. This has kind of been a facetious video on how to be the biggest dick, just to label all of my pet peeves out there that I see in the students and other coaches, and just kind of get you an opportunity just to have a little bit of a laugh at yourself and go, yeah, actually, no, I did do that. Maybe I should keep an eye on that in future, because God knows I do. The one that I'm the biggest bugger for is actually maybe being a bit judgy for reenactors, going, yeah, cool, but this is a sport. Come on, let's like a sport. And actually, sometimes reenactors just want to come along and have a bit of fun and hang out with their mates. And you know what? That's all cool. Yeah, I'm a coach, but who am I to judge on how people do this sport, really? If you want to get good, I hope you get good, but if you're just going to have fun, just live and let live. And just remember, for the love of God, be careful about how you give advice, or be careful about how you talk to people, because if you are an advanced fighter, what you say has a lot of weight. So just keep that in mind. And with that, we'll go over to the Q&A section. Okay, so today's question actually comes from a good friend of mine, Kavan. She asks, what kind of mental state or emotional state is best for fighting? So, really good question. Wasn't prepared for it, so let's see where I go. Right, professionalism. It's a tricky one. It basically means you need to stop and think, actually, what am I getting out of today? If you are on a standard club night, then really your emotional state is not as important, but your mental state is. Now, it's really hard. This is going to sound a bit woolly and a bit up in the air, but first you need to actually establish the difference between the two. Mental state is much more permanent. If you struggle from anxiety, depression, nervous disposition, anything like that, or any underlying health issues, you always need to be aware of. Whereas emotional state is a little bit more temporary. Are you a bit pissed off because you've had a bad day at work? Have you been caught behind a bunch of fucking cyclists? These things feel a bit more immediate and reactive, and it's really important to know the difference between the two. Weirdly, in my experience as a coach now, as a mental health professional, I am not. I want to be super clear out there. And some mental health professionals, I'm sure, may feel differently about this. But in my experience as a coach, it's actually the emotional, which is much more, for me, something I need to deal with than someone's mental health. It's easier for me to manage someone with a genuine mental health problem than it is someone who's otherwise mentally well, but has got an emotional response going on, because they tend to be much more explosive and reactive in here and now. I'm not saying that the former can't be, but typically, or in my experience at least, that's been the case. So firstly, if you are in a club night, honestly, your your state of mind mentally, it just needs to be positive. And when I say positive, if you have something in the background, if you're on a low or you're on a negative phase or anything like that, tell your coach. They can help you out. They can keep an eye on you, or just they can know. You know, if you have a shit fight because you're on downer for whatever various valid reasons, they can just be there as a comforting word afterwards. But also, if you are on a negative phase in whatever mental situation you have, actually come to HEMA can be a huge boost, because you're hanging out with your friends, you can let loose in a controlled environment, and to a certain degree there are no consequences. Now there are consequences in regards to you could get hurt, you could hurt someone, it could really damage your enjoyment of the sport if you have a bad night. But what I mean from there are no consequences is you're not a competition, you've not got money riding on it in entrance fees and petrol and stuff like that. So actually, if you're on a bit of a downer and you just need a boost, you can just go and have a consequence-free night. Don't even fight to points. Just be like, Jeff, mate, can we scrap for like 5 minutes? I just need it, mate. I just fucking need to fight. And you know what? You can come away just like, oh, sweet release. So that can be really, really handy. Whereas on a club night, your emotional is really important to understand. If you're pent up about anything, if there's anything working away in the background, they're usually situational. If you've had a loss, for example, this is something I've not myself had experience with, but a member of mine had a loss, and they're obviously quite sad. So as you know, they're on a downer emotionally from that, then they just couldn't get out of first gear because they were slow. They were getting hit loads. They didn't want to talk about it, so nobody knew that they were sad. As a result, they got their shit kicked in on a club night, and they had a horrible night. And I got a text from them saying, "Oh, I don't think he was for me." And I was like, "Dude, okay, but remember, you came here for a distraction from what's been happening. It's not really a proper metric, a proper feedback of what's going on with your HEMA at the moment. I know you're a great fighter. I know you love it. You just had a bit of a downer, and you've used HEMA as a distraction. And in this situation, it's not been the wisest move." So on a club night, your emotional involvement is way more important to manage. What you need to be is primed and motivated rather than reactive, if that makes sense. So what I'd recommend, again, this is as a coach, this is not as a mental health professional. If there are any mental health professionals out there, please do put it in the comments and put a recommendation in or anything. But from a coach's point of view, you don't want to be reactive. And what I mean is something's happened and you're reacting to that. Say, I don't know, a classic BMW has done a BMW thing and BMW'd all in front of you like a massive wanker that they are. And you're like, fucking dickhead, got in front of me, did whatever, you know. And then you get in there to HEMA, like, right, I need to blast some steam because this guy's made me mad. Okay, but not Dave's fault who I'm fighting, and he cops it like a big one. Because that's just going to make you feel like shit. Your mate's going to be hurt, you're going to hurt your mate, you're going to feel bad, everyone's going to have a bad time. So if you've a reactive emotional experience, just keep that in check, or just be aware of it. If you can, if you are lucky enough to be able to do this, compartmentalize and just be like, look, I'm a HEMA now, the mask is on, I am Zen, let's fight. Whereas if you know you've had a shit day, tell your mates, be like, dude, some guy is following a horse box the whole way over, I'm in a bad mood, but I don't want to waste my HEMA night. Just let me know if shit's going sideways, if I'm hitting hard or anything like that, because I'll buck my ideas up. So reactive behaviours, reactive emotions, not the best for HEMA. But trickily, actually, HEMA can be very good for soothing any reactive emotion. But what you need really is, ideally as a coach, you want them to be motivated, you want them to be engaged emotionally, you want them to be happy or enjoying it, having fun. You really, as a coach, and this is where the coach's job is hardest, you need to lead by example. Essentially, you are the yardstick of emotion that your students will be drawing from. So if you come in emotionally fucked, then everyone else is going to be like, oh, okay, all right, fine. Whereas actually, you kind of, and I use this term a lot, you need to be a cult leader a little bit. You need to be the big smile, the happy, open, come, everybody, worship at the altar of stew. And obviously exaggerated for comic effect. But you know what I mean? People will feed off of that. So if people are whatevering, don't want to get too specific, then you actually be like, ah, oh, yes, sweet, this guy gets it, excellent. An hour off of my head, an hour's holiday away from my thoughts, So that, from a club night, honestly, emotional is really important. Mental, hopefully, really hopefully, you know it well enough that it's either being managed or you know yourself well enough that you can control it. And you know what? If you have even the slightest fucking inkling that it's not managed or you're out of your depth, go see a bloody doctor without hesitation. Talk to a mate, talk to a family member, talk to a doctor in that bloody order. If not, sooner with the doctor, because you just got to talk to people. So yeah, mental, honestly, not the most important, providing there's a handle on it, but emotional, really important. Now, competition, totally different beast, totally different beast. If you are a competition standard, your emotional state actually doesn't really apply that much. And the reason is you're not fighting your mate. You may come up in a pool against your mates. I hate it when that happens. But if you're fighting people that you don't really know, just people in the wider HEMAverse, if you're a bit pissed off, if you're a bit angry, you've had a bad day at the office, your boss is being a twat, anything like that, it doesn't really actually make that much of a difference, because you don't need to worry about absolutely obliterating your mate 15-0 or something and being like, oh man, I unloaded on you, I'm so sorry. Because you're there, you are competitive in your nature, you are there to kill, murder, destroy, maim, and absolutely shit them up. Obviously in a competitive and friendly nature. So emotional actually doesn't become that much of an issue. Obviously, primed and good is what you need. When I say primed, ready for this, prepared. Yep, I'm fighting, I know I'm fighting, I'm not nervous, I'm good to go, like a runner waiting for that gun. And this is the metaphor that I always use. When that gun goes off for runners, watch them. Do they go, oh, fuck, loud noise, shit, run? Or they go, right, I'm ready. And that gun isn't letting them know the race has begun. That gun is letting them know they can go. There's a difference. And that's what you want for competition. That noise is not going to startle you. It is giving you freedom. Bang, shit, go, bad. Bang, I'm already gone, mate. That's what you need. And that's what I mean by primed. But if you're at a competition, to circle back to my actual bloody point, if you're at a competition, actually your mental state is incredibly important, because there's stakes. There's something riding on it. So you need to make sure that your mental position has the fortitude to deal with it. If you, like I say, if any of the things I've mentioned previously, if you lose, if you bomb out, and we all have shit competitions. Man, I remember, just gone off on a tangent, nobody cares for the record. I remember I was at the Slough fencing competition in 2009, maybe. And I didn't even make it out the pools. I got my fucking head kicked in. Like, I genuinely, I don't think I scored a point actually. No, I didn't. No, I got absolutely battered. And you know what? There weren't even good people in my pools. I was just being shit. I think I went out to the person that came 60th. It's embarrassing. But we all have times when it's crap. But you need to at least accept the risk that that may happen. You may have a bad fight. You may be HEMA Jesus, and it happens from time to time. You'll just be on peace, just like, I am unbeatable. I am the gift of all things. And yeah, great. Ride that wave when it's waving, man. But you need to have the mental fortitude to at least be able to take it on the chin if you have a bad day. And this is where your mental state comes in really handy. If you know that you are, if it's going to affect you, if you know you're going to spiral as a result, maybe your anxiety is kicking up, and you're like, competition's coming up and I'm in a bad anxiety position at the moment. Maybe the competition's not the right thing for you at the time. Yeah, shit to miss out, but honestly, it's better to miss out than to be ill, right? If you're struggling with mood swings or depression or anything like that, your mental state is far, 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 far more important when it comes to competition. It basically comes down to stakes. Is it for funsies or are you doing it for the medals? If it's for funsies, evaluate that emotion. What emotions are there? Can they be volatile because you've had a bad time, or are you primed and ready to go? If it's for medals, if it's for competing, look at your mental health. Are you in a good place right now? Yes, you'll be fine. But if there are a few things niggling around in the background, if you have coping strategies, fine, you crack on, man. You know you better than anyone else. But if you think you may not be in a position to actually take a knock because it might set you back mentally, then it might be a case of just not this one, not for this call sign. Anyway, I hope that helped. This has been a long episode today, mostly because I ranted and raved about primarily myself, because I am a massive dick. But remember, we all have these foibles, these blind spots, and we all have these prejudices. Just keep them in check and maybe talk to each other nicely. Anyway, see you later. Bye. Yes, so fucking another motorcycle. Christ, if this doesn't make it into the blooper reel, I don't know what bastard does, honestly. Jesus, I'm going home. I'm already home. There's nowhere to go. I'm having a breakdown.